Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we've got some, of course, breaking news that broke earlier today while I was at work, but still important to talk about nonetheless. And that is indeed that Spider-Man is not going anywhere with the MCU. And that is, of course, a reference to what Tom Holland posted on his Instagram in reaction to this news becoming official earlier today. Now, this is something that many of us thought and speculated was probably going to end up happening. You have two giant companies here, Disney and Sony, both of them fighting against each other, both of them trying to essentially, show their greed in a lot of ways, because obviously when it comes down to it, they all just want more money out of it. But at the end of the day, too, when it looked at the relationship with Disney was getting barely anything out of this relationship as far as the actual profits from the movies in which the character had been featured in, which obviously I thought, basically owed a lot to what the MCU had done for the character. I mean, bringing the Spider-Man into the MCU so that way it could revamp and revitalize the character and relaunch the character was a very, very big deal. But with that being said, I think that both sides definitely had an argument to be made. Again, with Disney only getting 5% at the time, and also, of course, with Sony saying, yeah, but we're putting in most of the work, and so we should be getting most of the profits nonetheless. And then, of course, with Disney coming out with the design, basically the demand saying we want 50%, we want to do a 50-50 split here, even though, and many people may not know this, Disney owns the merchandising rights to Spider-Man. So even though they got nothing from the movies, all of the merchandise that you see, kids buying, all the merchandise that you yourself might even be buying, anything that is Spider-Man themed, all of that money, all of it goes to Disney because they own those specific rights. And so one could easily argue that, yeah, they may have only gotten 5% from the movies, but the amount of money they're making revenue-wise from the actual merchandise that they're selling in the name of Spider-Man, and because of these movies that they're a part of, are obviously going to be well worth it in the long run for the amount of money and the amount of time that they would be putting in to try and help with these overall projects. And so now the new deal apparently is going to be that Disney is going to get around 25%, which is definitely lower than what they had originally wanted. They had said 50%, and then at one point they said they would not take anything lower than 30% or something to that effect. Again, this comes from leaks, and so the numbers at the end of the day could have easily not be true, but it seems to me likely to be the case that was the number that was being pushed around. And so it looks like they were able to get Disney to go below that 30% number, and 25%, in all honesty, seems like it's going to be pretty fair, especially since now with this new deal, they've got to put up around a quarter of the entire production cost also, in addition to Kevin Feige being part of the production as executive producer. So it seems like both sides are putting in as much as is needed. Both sides are going to be able to get one movie, at least one more movie each. So that means that we're going to get another MCU version Spider-Man movie, individual movie in the Homecoming franchise, which it now is a franchise. So we're going to get a third film. We're going to get a trilogy of those films. And also, we've confirmed now that MCU Spider-Man is going to have at least one more movie in the overall MCU under full control of Disney as well. And so you have both sides getting essentially something good out of the deal. It is, of course, only for one movie each, and so we definitely could be crossing this line again in the next few years when those movies happen. And I'm sure Disney's going to say, well, look at how successful it is now. Maybe we should be pushing forward, especially since, remember, this is something that we talked about when this story first broke, that the original plans that Disney had for Spider-Man was for him to be essentially the next face of the MCU. And at the very least, he was going to be the heart. This is something that I argued for a lot, that he is the heart of the MCU, and without Spider-Man, they didn't really have anyone to fill in that spot. They've been building up the storyline between him and Tony Stark, and with Tony Stark no longer being there, and him essentially being given the mantle in some form or fashion, at least the spiritual mantle of being the successor, one could say, in the MCU to Tony Stark's character, especially because he's the character that has all of this tremendous heart to him. I think that all of us can look to this move and look to this choice and look to everything going on and say, yeah, you know what, this seems to make a lot of sense why Disney would want to have this character again, because of course the rumors going wild that, oh, does this mean now they have to go back to, Captain Marvel, because their original plans for Captain Marvel were to have her essentially be brought down. I think it was Lord Doomcock that was talking about this, that the plans they had were to have Spider-Man and Captain Marvel be in tandem with each other to try and make Captain Marvel more likable, since Spider-Man is one of the most likable characters in the comics. And so it's interesting to me that this is indeed going to happen the way it's going to happen. But I will say this much, obviously I've got some thoughts about this because I still believe that Disney is an evil corporation, but also I'm just sick and tired of these giant corporations getting into these pissing matches where they're just like, oh, we want more money, we want more money, we want more money. And at the end of the day, Disney is continuing its reign, it's continuing its domination, and it's not getting exactly what they wanted, but they are getting a pretty big chunk, especially in comparison to what they had done beforehand. You could easily argue that it's justified that they get that much of a cut of the movie, especially now that they're putting up more money as far as the production budget's concerned. But it is still interesting nonetheless. But the one thing that's really cool is the fact that Tom Holland himself on Instagram posted the picture and the video from The Wolf of Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is like, I'm not effing going in. I'm not effing leaving. I'm not effing leaving. The show goes on. Which, if you've never seen that movie, holy crap, it's one of the best scenes ever. Obviously, I'm not going to play it for the channel because of the explicit cursing, but I think that's hilarious that Tom Holland is posting that in reaction to the announcement that Spider-Man is not leaving the MCU. You all know that I'm pretty much done with the MCU at this point in time. You know that I've been very critical of the MCU, especially since Endgame and even prior to that with Captain Marvel and Black Panther even. But at the end of the day, too, I can still enjoy a really funny use of an incredible meme, especially when it has The Wolf of Wall Street, which is one of the funniest movies, one of the greatest Scorsese films of all time, but also one of the funniest movies of the last 10 years as well. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts about this? Are you excited for this? Obviously, you have a picture here also of Tom Holland with Robert Downey Jr. They've actually been spending a lot of time together. It seems like there's this friendship that has, been brought about, and it makes sense because when you're an actor and you are portraying a certain character in a movie and you have a relationship with another character, oftentimes those relationships bear out in real life. And so for him and Tony Stark to be playing that father-son relationships, it makes a lot of sense that they would probably have developed an actual friendship during that process. It's the same reason why many times, especially when someone who was a theater geek in high school, many times that you had a guy and a girl in a show and they played the romantic leads across from each other, oftentimes they either would date or have some romantic interest in each other or something crazy, something would happen, right? Because again, a lot of times the emotions that you put into it acting turn out to be based on actual emotions. And so if you start to force yourself to feel certain emotions, eventually those emotions can become real. We call them showmances, which is also why many of them ended up failing because it was based off of an acting approach. But it was really cool to still see that they are friends outside in real life. And as I said before, if there's one thing I could say is just freaking perfect and is awesome, it is this whole meme right here that they're using from Wolf of Wall Street because I just think it's fantastic. But let me know your thoughts about this. Do you think this is a good thing? I know a lot of people were speculating that Sony was going to go on its own because of Venom and the success of Venom and all that stuff. But as I said before, I could see it going multiple ways. I could see it going where they could go their separate ways. I could also have seen it, and this is now what's happened, that Disney would come back to the table offering or, saying that we want less money and that Sony would eventually take that as well because of the fact they know that, yeah, they might be able to make their own universe, but without Disney especially, it could be a lot more, could cause a lot more problems. And so now they don't have to worry about that anymore. And so it looks like we are now getting more MCU Spider-Man, and many people, unfortunately, think that that means that the Spider-Man direction is going to go in a more woke direction, which obviously I think is a fair worry and fair concern because of the actions of the MCU recently. But it is also kind of cool nonetheless to see things like this happening behind the scenes. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and this deal and whether you think it's going to be good for the Spider-Man universe or the MCU going forward. And as always, please make sure you leave the comments below and let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, smash the like button, give us a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. You are all amazing and beautiful people. One more day till the birthday, getting the thing that I already know that I'm getting and to play the games that I get. And also I need to make a correction. It's very rare that I make corrections on the channel, but when I do, I admit to it. So this is definitely a mea culpa on my part. But yesterday I shouted out someone twice. So I still want to give a shout out to Bruce for sending me The Last Starfighter, but I need to shout out JJ because I accidentally said Bruce twice. But I need to shout out JJ, my boy JJ, for the very, very tremendous PayPal donation for my birthday tomorrow that he gave me early, so that I would have games to play on my birthday. And so I showed those games the other day. Let's Go Pikachu. We also have Zelda Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I'm very excited to play those games. So shout out to JJ for that. Want to make sure I had that correction because when I make mistakes, I admit it. It happens, but rarely. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Have a wonderful day. Happy Friday. And as always, God bless.